follow us today. Today is super hot, y'all. Me and Shannon, we drove down to the Dollar General a while ago. They had a little sale going on. But it is hot outside today. Tried to sit outside just for a few minutes, but I could not handle it. The humidity is what's terrible. So we had to come in. Even our puppy dogs, they didn't want to be outside for very long either. So today, I don't think it's going to be a very long lesson. I decided today to go a different route. This is something that has really been on my mind for quite some time. Probably about a month or longer. Probably about 2 months, if I was to be honest. I have actually sent part of this to several of my friends through Messenger, just to kind of uplift them. But today we're going to talk about still small voice. That's the name of this lesson, still small voice. And it's talking about Elijah. And Elijah was a prophet sent from God. He had a prophetic gift for around 25 years. And it says that he was the son of Savre. I can't pronounce that, but he's known as Elisha the Tishbite. And in my little concordance book, it says that he was a prophet from Tishbite of Gilead in the northern kingdom. It said this was west of the Jordan River. He performed many miracles. He condemned Baalism, idolatry of Baalism, and he confronted kings prophetically. He also passed his mantle down to Elisha before God took him up to heaven by a whirlwind in a chariot of fire alive. The first thing I'm going to read is out of James, and it's James 5:17 and 18. And in James it calls Elijah Elias, E-L-I-A-S. It says he was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. And then I'm going to read 2 Kings 2:11. And you can also find where it talks about Elijah and Ezra. It said in Ezra that he was married to a foreigner. And then you can also find where it talks about him in Chronicles. But 2 Kings 2:11. I thought I had this marked. I had 1 Kings marked instead of 2 Kings. I don't know why I did that. Alright. 2 Kings 2:11. Well, maybe it was 1 Kings 2:11. That didn't make sense there. We might just skip that one. We'll just skip that one. I'll have to look that up later. I don't know what I was looking for. Alright, the next, I'm just going to read y'all what I wrote, and then we'll get into reading down. But like I said, the name of this lesson is Still Small Voice, and it's about Elijah the Tishbite. He was a prophet. In 1 Kings, Macy, go home. Go. She barks at everything, y'all. She's wanting me to play with her. Come on. You want to get up here with me? Come on. Either get up here with me or go in there with Pa. Come on. Come on. She's probably going to bark the whole time I'm doing this lesson because she barks nonstop. Alright, in 1 Kings 19 we find Elijah in a struggle. The 2 chapters before 1 Kings 19, it says, make the struggle seem very unreal. When you look at 1 Kings 17, 18, you're really not thinking of Elijah being in any type of struggle. But in 19, we find him in a struggle. And it seems unreal. We expect depression, anxiety, and panic when things are going wrong, but not when you are high up on a mountaintop like Elijah was. Looking back in 1 Kings 17 and 18, we see Elijah winning as he prophesies drought upon the land of Israel due to their disobedience and idolatry worship. Elijah is guided by God, and he is miraculously fed by God by the use of ravens to deliver food to him when he was hiding by the brook Cherith during the drought. The ravens brought bread and meat twice a day to Elijah, and he also drank from the brook Cherith while he was there. This was due to the prophecy against King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. Think about these ravens. I looked it up. It says ravens can weigh anywhere from 1.5 pounds to 4.4 pounds. They live approximately 10 to 15 years in the wild. They have large black glossy wings and feathers. They have a very stout bill on them. They're very intelligent birds, and they're known for problem solving and social interactions, including playing and vocalization and gestures. So ravens are very smart. We also see raven when you look back when it talks about Noah when he sends the raven out of the ark. So ravens are very smart birds, and God used ravens in the Bible a pretty good bit. So these ravens kept Elijah alive, and that's in 1 Kings 17, 2 through 6. And I'm not going to read that. Y'all can go back and read that if you want to. It says, then after the river dries up in 1 Kings 17, 7 through 15, God provides a widow woman from Zarephath and her young son to provide daily for Elijah with ongoing meal in a barrel and a cruse of oil that never dries up. What a miracle that was. That is also one of my favorite. I have a bunch of favorite stories in the Bible, but this one is really amazing to go back and read all of this about Elijah. I really like all the stories about Elijah. They're really, really great. And then after that, it says in 1 Kings 18, God tells Elijah to present himself to Ahab, and he would send rain. The famine was severe that time in Samaria, and Elijah has a sort of a showdown with Ahab and Ahab's 450 Baal prophets. So they were worshiping Baal and committing idolatry, which God is a jealous God. He does not like that at all. In 1 Kings 18, 21 through 39, that's where they have the showdown. And I am going to read that. 1 Kings 18. 21 through 39. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, even I only remain a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many. And call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them, and said, cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking or pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth. They must be awakened. And they cried aloud. They cried even louder, and they cut themselves with knives and lancets till the blood gushed out upon them. I just find this so funny. And it came to pass when midday was past that they prophesied unto the time of the offering and to the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any answer nor any that regarded. And the reason there wasn't is because Baal's not a real God. He's false. And Elijah said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, or Israel, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, Do it a second time, and they did it a second time. And he said, Do it a third time, and they did it a third time. So they filled these 4 barrels 3 times with water, and poured it on all this sacrifice. And the water ran round about the altar, and filled the trench with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell, and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. How amazing is that? When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God. They knew then that the Lord was God. Because I'm telling you, it burnt up everything. It said it even licked up the dust. It burnt the stones. It burnt the wood. All that water that was in those trenches, it burnt. Jesus got it all. There wasn't no question about it. Alright? We serve an awesome, wonderful God. After 3 years of famine and drought, then the rain comes. You know, he had promised them he would send rain. In chapter 19, we see Jezebel. She threatens Elijah, and then he starts panicking. He starts having anxiety and fear. Well, we know God does not give us the spirit of fear, but it says He gives us power, love, and a sound mind. And you can find that in 2 Timothy. This turns into thoughts of depression and suicide. He's ready to die. All the winds didn't matter. All that he just did with them prophets, it was like it didn't even happen. You know, he knew God was God because of all that. But where was his faith now? He was in the valley now, valley low. All he saw was the threat. So what did he do? He ran and isolated. He became vulnerable to the exception, discouraged and deception from the lies of the enemy. Satan's a liar. We find this out in John 8:44, in Revelations 12:9 and 10, in John 10 and 10, Luke 22:3, and 1 Peter 5:8. I'm going to read John 8:44 to y'all. It says, Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. This is talking about Satan. He's a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and a father of it. So Satan's a liar. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. And then John 10:10, the thief cometh not but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. So Satan, he is only coming to steal and to kill and destroy. And you better believe he is on a rampage right now, trying to kill, trying to steal, and trying to destroy. And if he can separate people, that's what he'll do. He'll kill all hope. He'll kill all peace of mind that you have. But you cannot let him do that. When you get saved, God gives you power to overcome him. Alright, and then Luke 22, 31. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. Alright, and then we also know in Job, Satan desired to have Job as well. You can go back and read about that. And then Revelation 12, 9 and 10. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And that's all I'll read of that. So he was cast out of heaven. So Elijah, he hid himself under a juniper tree. He was so focused on his shortcomings and anxiety and shame and fear that he declared, I'm no better than my fathers before me. So what does he do? He asked God to just take his life. He was ready to die right then and there. But what does God do? God sent his angel, and that angel fed him for 40 days. He literally ate angel food for 40 days. What a miracle. Then Elijah went and found a cave, and he hid himself in the cave, isolating himself even more. Things were really bad now. He was really in a valley though. Even in the midst of his valley, God sent 3 storms. Whenever I read this, y'all, I was so surprised because I had never realized that God had sent these 3 storms while he was in this cave. He sent a tornado, he sent an earthquake, and a fire. And it says that God was not in any of them. The Bible states God was not in it. But then it says we see God's still small voice. Peace. He sent him peace. Even in the midst of the storm, he sent peace. Have you ever sensed God's still small voice? In Psalms 46:10 it says, be still and know that I am God. That is words to live by right there. Be still and know that I am God. God then speaks to Elijah and says, Elijah, what are you doing hiding out in this cave? I have work for you to do. You're not finished. I'm not finished with you, Elijah. I have 7,000 Israelites that have never bowed down to false idols. You are my prophet. You see, we're God's people, and Elijah was his. So I'm going to read this, 1 Kings. I wrote it down. I got to find it. 1 Kings 19. Oops, sorry. And I thought I had this marked, but I marked the wrong thing because I was in a hurry a while ago. Alright. So I'm going to read starting in verse 9. And he came thither into a cave and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains. That was the tornado. And brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind he sent an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake he sent a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. But the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire, a still small voice. So that's what I want you to focus on today. Be still and know that I am God. Even in the midst of our storms, God can send us peace. Jesus is the peace speaker. He is our peace. Another verse I want y'all to look at is 2 Corinthians 10, 5 through 8. This is talking about casting down imaginations. Luke 10, 19, it says, we have power to tread on serpents and scorpions And then Philippians 4, 6 through 17 talks about, Philippians 4, 6 through 7. Be anxious for nothing, but everything by prayer and supplication, let thy requests be made known unto God. And then 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says, pray without ceasing. So we can have peace even in the midst of our storms, y'all. And I'm going to hop off here because I'm having a bad hot flash. But I love y'all. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.